Borderlands 4 is probably the most talked about and infamous game out in 2025. And it's for pretty good reason. For most people, this game is not running very well. This franchise is very well known and something that people are really looking forward to play. For some context on how typically the Borderlands series works, this is Borderlands 2 on my original Steam Deck, and this is one of the games that I played when I first got this back in 2022, and I absolutely loved it, and I had zero issues getting 60 FPS. Now people have 5090s, such as me, and are struggling to even get 40 FPS. It's kind of a shame, and it's just kind of where the video game industry is. Unreal Engine 5 is typically blamed, but let's just be honest, the developers do not have to use Unreal Engine 5, as well as they do not have to just accept this bad optimization. One of the developers was basically just like, upgrade your hardware. And it's like, yeah, but I mean, think about it. If you bought a 4090 back in 2022, why are you having a bad experience playing this game? Which made me think, how much FPS do I get? Now, why does it matter how much FPS I get? I'm just some random dude on the internet who has a YouTube channel. But I also have the world's fastest gaming PC on the planet, which you don't have. I have a 9800X3D and a 5090 fully tuned. Everything is fully overclocked. My system is fully optimized. The only thing that could pretty much get me higher performance is if I got a 5090 XOC BIOS. Someone feel free to slide it to me, by the way. No, but I actually purchased Borderlands 4, and I've actually been playing it, and I do enjoy it. And while the game does run good for me and better than anyone else who's going to be playing this game, I do notice the issues as well, and I have kind of found my way of fixing it. Still, I have a 5090. I should just be able to load the game, set whatever settings I want, and play the game. So today I'll be testing 4K and 1440p just because I think that with a 5090, you shouldn't be using 1080p, obviously. Those are the two resolutions that anyone buying this GPU is going to be using to see, okay, what kind of performance am I getting and what kind of tweaks to the settings I can make to get a certain kind of FPS. Now, common refresh rates for 4K right now is 240 hertz. That's just what all of the OLEDs that you buy are going to be. I have a 27-inch 4K 240 hertz OLED, for example. And for 1440p, typically you're going to see 360 hertz and 480 hertz. Now, typically when I am playing a single player game, I'm typically going to be in around the range of 120 FPS. That's my goal. Every modern monitor has G-Sync. So guess what? It's still going to be buttery smooth. So how can we make it as smooth as possible? And what's the best kind of, experience we can get? Huge shout out to my Discord, by the way, because they were just like, look, we're playing Borderlands 4. We enjoy the game. It's fun. They told me to try it out. So I was like, why not? And then they really just inspired me to make this video. If you're interested in joining the Discord, definitely do it. Link down below. It's completely free. Now let's get into actually Borderlands 4 and just see how it's performing and how I can get the best experience possible. Okay, so here we are starting out in 1440p, and you're looking at, 85, 86, 83 FPS. That's not bad at all. So this is actually the default settings that literally it gives me when I hit run auto detect. That's all I did, just because I wanted to see what does this game want. And typically, if you are trying to actually see what kind of performance the developer is expecting, especially in a high-end PC like this, then just run the auto, see whatever it gives you. It's giving me about 85, 86 in this part. This is right after like the first intro mission. So I haven't played much, but it's not bad at all. So 75 FPS is probably the lowest I've seen. One thing I do notice is if you whip your mouse a lot, sorry if this is really stuttery and stuff, but it can drop the FPS a little bit, but nothing insane. Okay, so this is when it's going to get interesting. At 1440p on a 5090, I do not want to actually do anything to lower the quality anymore. Just because even if it looks good, it just doesn't feel right to be rendering 1080p. So here's the first thing I'm going to do actually. So I'm going to change upscaling method to DLSS, but still keep it on full resolution. That way I can enable frame generation. Now, let's say you have a 1440p 240 hertz monitor and you want that entire FPS. you were getting way above that. This could be 360 hertz. Now, one thing to think about, you're going to be frame jetting. These are fake frames, and this does add latency. So this is the point where I'd say if you have a 240 hertz monitor, do not be running 4x. In fact, this is one of those times where you let actually G-Sync do its thing. Let it help you with your frame tearing. Let me just drop this down to 3x, and then we're getting about 202, 200. Like, this is the kind of FPS that I would be perfectly fine with at 1440p, 240 hertz. I would be having no issues. If I did lock my G-Sync and stuff, I'd be at about 225 FPS cap. So this is perfect. But, so I think that on a high-end PC, 1440p, just enable frame gen. This still feels amazing. Okay, so the frame time graph just doesn't work with like the 0.1 milliseconds because it's fake frames. It gets really confused. So just take that with a complete grain of salt. But as you can see, I'm also not even like completely GPU bound, 96, 97. Like, yeah, this is obviously a GPU bound scenario. Let's see what happens if I get into like a fight or like get into some action, still 200 FPS. This is perfectly fine. Very high preset. It is crazy to think that the highest preset is not made for a 5090. This would be one of those games that gets released like at the end of a life cycle where it's like, oh, this is when you start needing a new GPUs. Think about Indiana Jones and the Great Circle with the 4090 right before the 5090. Okay, so I think that for 1440p, with just enabling frame gen, you can get a very good actual experience in 1440p. So I'm going to spend the rest of this video in 4K. Here we are now in 4K. Let me actually turn up the for you just so that we can actually see the overlay just a little bit better. Let's up it. That way you guys can see it. There we go. And I did run auto detect once again. And this is the settings it gave me. Seems to be the very high preset. No upscaling at all. So what's funny to me about this is that the developer was very open talking about, oh, you need DLSS for this game. You need frame gen. It's just kind of something you need. Without it and with the settings it recommended me, I am at 47, 45 FPS. Like, this is terrible. Like, this is not a good gaming experience at all. Especially when you're buying a 5090 for over 2,000 US dollars. But let's see what we can do. Let's do the exact same thing I did earlier. Let's just drop DLSS, turn it on, and we're gonna do just, you see, my issue with this is that we can't even do the same thing because I think that for frame gen to be even decent at all, you need 60 FPS, more preferably 90. So let's keep this off. Let's go to TSR just so that you guys know I'm not doing anything weird. And let's just drop the graphic preset by 1 to high and see what it does for us. 65, 66. This is so good. Like, 60 FPS is, in my opinion, the baseline. Like, that should be what you're able to run. And 4K high still looks very, very good to me. Like, this is not anything that I've been like, oh, this game looks terrible. I think the art style does actually help that a bunch, where it's detailed but also cartoony enough that if something doesn't look great, you can kind of just overlook it, and it is a bit over sharpened, which does kind of help with that lack of quality. But now at 60 FPS like we have now, we can kind of turn on frame gen. We're just going to do 2x for right now. That's going to bring us to, what's it going to bring us to? 120. Remember earlier in this video, I said that 120 is about my goal in a single player game. That's about the FPS I want to feel like I'm not being held back. This isn't a competitive title. This isn't me playing Counter-Strike at 500 FPS like I do. This is me playing a single player game that I'm just going to play late at night in my room when I want to unwind. 120 FPS is perfectly fine. But I understand that you have 240 hertz monitors. You want, you know, or maybe even you want to turn up the quality a little bit. Something you might want to do. So let's go back to very high and let's see what we can do with 2x frame gen. And this does feel terrible. 90 FPS. This might be the worst 90 FPS I felt. This feels like 45. Once again, it's not real frames. It's not lowering your latency at all. So this is when I'm going to start recommending upscaling. Let's do DLSS quality. This renders at about 1440p, and look at that. We're at our 120 FPS mark again. So this doesn't look as good. There is some weird sharpening issues now, or just some weird like artifacts. I think part of it is the art style that I did mention. But one thing that other kind of tech tubers were talking about is ghosting kind of on the reticle. I am not noticing that at all with this. It does depend on the reticle. I was literally watching YouTube videos to like prepare for this video, see what other people might be saying, and I did notice it, but right now at least it's fine. Might just depend on what's actually, you know, the actual reticle is, but this looks perfectly fine to me. I'm having no issues at all. This would be like probably how I'd play the game, but for fun, let's just see. Let's max out the quality. Let's turn off frame gen, turn off DLSS, and what kind of FPS can you expect at 4K? Whoa, okay. So 40 FPS. My PC sounds like a tank if you guys can hear that. We're not even hitting power limits. As you can see, there's something weird with the GPU. It just dropped down to like 70-ish%. So this game definitely does have some optimizations to be done, but once again, don't try to run everything at max quality. This is how I was playing the game actually earlier today, was I was doing this. High frame gen 3 times at about 170, 180 FPS. This feels amazing to me. I feel no mouse judder in my actual mouse. I am a proponent of frame generation, especially for single player titles. For multiplayer, absolutely not. But you gotta understand, these technologies do exist. They're gonna continue being used. NVIDIA is going to market these. NVIDIA wants the game developers to use these. They spent millions of dollars producing them. So in that case, I think that obviously if you spend an insane amount on your rig, you will have a good gaming experience, and there are things that you can do, and if you leverage these technologies in the proper way, this is actually not a bad gaming experience. But let's close out of the game and let's wrap up this video. I can already see it now. You're evilly commenting down below, oh my gosh, you support FrameGen, you support the trillion-dollar companies, you actually don't know what you're talking about. Yes, I do. So when I actually was testing a couple months ago the 5070 that I had against my RTX 4090, I said that frame generation did give you a higher FPS number than my 4090. It 100% did that, and the experience was pretty good. Was it as good as my 4090? Absolutely not. That was running pure, true organic frames. Nothing was generated through machine learning or artificial intelligence. For someone who never had that experience before, FrameGen's pretty good. And for me, I have two options. I could wait 2-3 years for the 6090 to come out and then finally play this game after all of my friends have already played it, and to be like, you know, this is finally a decent experience. Or I can use the technologies that are just given a bad name by the mainstream and have a great gaming experience. I use frame generation all the time in my single player titles, and I know plenty of people with high-end PCs who do as well. When I'm playing a game like that, I don't have my MSI Afterburner up in the corner. I only do that when I'm making a video. I would have no idea what my FPS was. All I care about is, does my mouse feel good? And it does. To summarize that into one sentence, it only matters about input lag. It does not matter what the FPS number is, especially with frame generation. I know this isn't what you want to hear, but this game is not as badly optimized as you want to make it seem. In reality, if you have good hardware, obviously mine is very overkill, but even if you had something like an RTX 4080 in a 7800X3D, still a very high-end PC, but not the absolute fastest as of right now, I wouldn't complain. I'd play this game. And that's what I want you to remember. It's not always about having the highest FPS. It's about having fun in the game and actually enjoying it and enjoying the story and focusing more on that. But I hope you guys did enjoy this video. Hit that like button down below. Tell me if you want me to test any other games that you see as unoptimized. If you haven't already, join the community down below with the Discord, and I will see you guys in the next video.